guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi, host of Tier Talk, and welcome to another episode of Tier Talk. Today, we did a very unique episode, just kind of on the spur of the moment. I'll tell you what happened. I was invited to speak at Rutgers University. The person who invited me is a good friend of mine, a retired major for the Department of Corrections by the name of Luis Soto, who is now a college professor at Rutgers. And he invited me so I could speak to the students on how it is to work on the administrative end of working in a prison. And I thought it was great dialogue. It's a great chance to introduce the students to our side, the perspective of the front line, which is key. And that's why I think it's good to have people with experience that teaches. And this is what made me come up with this great idea. After I do this intro here, you're going to see a testimonial. The testimonial is coming from the person that invited me, the retired major, Luis Soto, again, who's now a criminal justice professor. And he's going to talk about the importance of experience with education. I'm taking it as the evolution of where education is. So it's great to see those with experience give back to the education field and seeing those formative minds get a great perspective, not just a perspective based on books, but a perspective based on reality. And today, that's what we did.
Well, back in 1990 was when I applied for the Department of Corrections. I was told that the test was being given, and it was an opportunity. It was a freshman at Montclair State University, and I saw an opportunity, and I basically took it. Took the test, did well, and it took about a year to go through the whole process of phases 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is a hiring process with the state of New Jersey, background check, psychological, medical, and I got hired in 1991. That's where I started my career with New Jersey Department of Corrections. Being a freshly out of college student, per se, at the age of 20, I had no experience into what the corrections field would bring or what to expect. At that time, we didn't even have any training as far as going into the institution. I got my 2 weeks orientation right at the prison setting, and I was given a badge, I was given a uniform, and told good luck. And hopefully your career is just as long as the other individuals that were speaking to us, who were lieutenants and captains at the time. But with those, well, basically no preconceived notions of what to expect, I went to work 2 weeks after the little orientation, and found out that corrections was a new world. It opened my eyes. I basically had to learn my job from day-to-day operations. It wasn't until about 6 months later, after I've worked the institution, that I was sent to an academy where there we spent about 8.5 weeks in training, which was kind of funny because it was a job that I thought I was already doing for the past 6 months. You know, I was being told how to properly do a count, and it was kind of funny because I've been doing a count for the past 6 months and haven't messed up a count yet, but it's great to be formally introduced, which is a little bit of a change as to how it happens now, where under the Police Training Act, now all law enforcement officers get to go to training prior to starting the job, which is a great opportunity for every new law enforcement officer. You do your 16 weeks, maybe longer, in a training environment where you get the knowledge from instructors who've worked the field, from the point of being an academy director all the way to a lieutenant, captain. Now we call them majors, officers that are teaching you hands-on every intricacy of the job. So I was very lucky that I started at a young age and learned at one of the best institutions here in the state of New Jersey, large 3,000 inmate population, and the experience is second to none. I still to this day believe that correction officers make the best law enforcement officers there because of the way we learn our positions and our jobs. I rose through the ranks pretty quickly, since I saw the opportunity in the Department of Corrections, saw the ladder of success which is laid out there for me. They helped out with my education by helping out with tuition reimbursement. And so I did the college thing, continued with my education. As I was going to get my associate's degree in criminal justice, I took the opportunity to take promotional exams and become a sergeant within the first 5 years. Continued my studies. I went to Fairleigh Dickinson to continue my studies and get my bachelor's in public administration. And again, took the opportunity that there was to move up in the department, move to better opportunities. I was able to attain a position at the Correctional Staff Training Academy down in Seagirt, New Jersey, as a correctional sergeant. Met great folks down there who they devote their life to training correctional officers, and one of the best training academies. I can speak on it because I worked there as a sergeant. I had the opportunity to take the lieutenant's promotional exam and did well on it, and I returned to the institution to get more practical experience and how to run an institution as shift commanders and area lieutenants and the sort. I remember my last job as a lieutenant was the one of the visits lieutenant's position, which is in charge of not only being supervising your staff and having the inmate population visit with their loved ones, family members and the sort, but also dealing with the public, which was a different aspect of corrections altogether. You know, up until that point, I was really the only civilians I spoke to or had dealings with were either social workers, teachers, psychiatrists, whoever was working that was not line staff but support staff. But I was able to now be hand-in-hand contact with, you know, the public, and that's a different aspect of corrections altogether, and how it steered me into going back to school and learning a little bit more about public administration, and ended up continuing that and getting my master's degree in public administration. Once I saw the opportunities just continue to open for me, I was able to take the promotional exam for the major's exam, and by then I had taken a second crack at the academy because I went there as a sergeant, but now I was able to return as a academy lieutenant, and was offered not only the academy lieutenant's position but also assistant director there for the academy. Being an assistant director helped me tremendously in being a valid influence in how our correctional officers are trained. We, under the Police Training Commission's guidelines, we revamped the entire lesson plans for each and every subject matter that we need to teach our correctional officers, which was just an exciting and great opportunity, working with great folks about policy and procedure. Once I took that promotional exam to become a major for the Department of Corrections, I was given that opportunity once again to return to the institution where all that experience from the past 20 years was being, I was able to put it to use at the facility level, and it was just a wonderful experience. I've never regretted it. I got a lot of students now because I just recently, in the last 2 years, became a professor here at Rutgers University, teaching in their criminal justice program, and taking 2 courses that I'm teaching my students, which is Intro to Criminal Justice and also Prisons and Prisoners. And a lot of students ask me, if you had it to do all over again, what would you change? And I tell them wholeheartedly that I wouldn't change anything, because every experience, good or bad, and just makes you a better person, makes you the individual that you are today. So I know they enjoy it because they get to see and hear from someone who not only has the credentials as far as academia is concerned, but also the experience of being there live and basically giving them that experience that they need to know about of how institutions run. So that's basically what got me into this whole experience of teaching and becoming a professor at a university. So let me tell you about the students that we encounter now as the universities are growing, colleges are growing and the criminal justice field and that topic has become very, very apparent in our day-to-day lives. The students now basically crave a little bit more of the knowledge, of the expertise of someone who's been in the field, has acted on the field, has portrayed a supervisory role or even a managerial role as far as corrections is concerned. I'll give you an example here in this prisons and prisoners class. A university as large as this one has many professors and many qualified and sometimes you can even say overqualified individuals who've written books, who has various PhDs and doctorates and are doing research here for the community and for the university. And it's such a wonderful thing to have, which all those credentials just mean that you are legitimate, one of the professionals in the field. Sometimes the avenue of adding to that would be to bring someone like myself and other professors in this department who've been police officers, detectives. We have forensic pathologists who've worked the field and now not only have those credentials behind them of having the PhDs, the doctors, have written books and done research on the topic, but have also worked the field in a way where they can bring that everyday knowledge. And these students just soak it up because they're basically in here for their interest, for their opportunities, and looking for where their career is going to lead them to, especially in this department as far as the criminal justice system is concerned. To be able to speak with someone who's been out there and done investigations and who's been in the battlefield per se, where you are there dealing with the criminal element, dealing with how to manage it, how to comport yourself, how to be a successful individual in your career, even when they want to know, hey, when you made a mistake, how was it rectified? How were you dealt with? When we talk about excessive force, which is a topic that they bring up almost every class, what am I going to do if I were in that field? If I'm posed with a threatening situation where I need to either make that quick second decision whether to take a life or not by using deadly force, or am I going to be judged on the type of incident that I have? It's just so insightful for these students to be able to talk to someone who's done it, who's been in the field. I'm not going to say that there's controversy between individuals of academia who have all these credentials but never worked the field and us, individuals that have the law enforcement experience, because being at a different level, just being able to sit down at a table and have a discussion or a debate on a particular topic, I find that these individuals that have those credentials are very open-minded. They know how to take in statistical data as well as experience data and knowledge and put it all together so that the end product or the end result is a better instructional unit, criminal justice program for every single individual that comes into play or comes into this university to learn and see which type of dealings or which avenue they can take in the criminal justice program. I've always had an inkling to take my career and push it towards the professional level as far as teaching is concerned. By taking those positions at the academy as a sergeant, as a lieutenant, and as an assistant director, it really opened my mind as to it's great to have the experience and the knowledge to teach something out of a particular research or book or expertise, but nothing can take the place of having an actual experience of a law enforcement officer imparting the knowledge that they've had or gained through their career to students. And I just would wish and basically plead for individuals that have the experience, that have worked through the career and been so successful, to be able to come and take advantage of a teaching opportunity. I've done so here at this university. I've brought many guest speakers, co-workers who are subject matter experts as far as individual fields. As far as in corrections, we had an SID investigator that came and talked about prison violence and gangs in prisons, and she was very instrumental in answering questions from the students themselves who can relate. Some students even actually said to her, I can relate to what you're saying because I see it in the streets. I mean, not knowing that there were maybe gang paraphernalia or gang signs or gang awareness in their streets or in their communities, they were able to relate a lot better. She was able to bring that terminology, their lingo, their mannerisms, their way of communicating, and they very much enjoyed not only the lecture, but they probably got something better than just reading about what a gang is and the definition of a gang. I've also had the opportunity to bring in an individual who's worked the field of parole and probation for the past 20 plus years, and her insight and knowing the ins and outs was instrumental in getting the student to understand better, and with an excellent, I would say, exercise of how to do an actual interview of an inmate who's ready to be and willing to go into the community under the supervision of parole. It's community corrections, so she was able to discern from the students what their needs were as far as knowing and questioning what it entails to have someone sit in front of you who is an inmate who you have to make the decision whether they're ready for reintegration into society, whether they're rehabilitated, whether their success rate or their risk factor is minimal, so that they can leave out on parole. So having that individual who does the job day in and day out basically gives that subject matter expertise that it's instrumental. I've had the opportunity to bring in correction officers themselves to speak as far as how tough their job is, what they love about their job, what are some challenges of their jobs. I bring in not only a male correction officer working in a female facility, but I also bring a female correction officer working at a male facility, which gives a different aspect to it completely. I'll sit there and talk to them about how correctional officers are trained, how they do their jobs, how they wear different hats. But once they see someone who's actually in the field working day to day and have that knowledge of how to deal with the public, because again, inmates are inmates, but they're people. They're there serving their sentence, paying back the community for whatever mistake or criminal activity they did, and now they're being treated in a professional setting by professional correction officers who have been trained, and the students just basically have, you can see it in their eyes. Their eyes light up because they're able to ask questions, and they have the feeling and knowledge that what they're receiving, that knowledge that they're listening to, or that guest speaker speaking to them, is speaking not only from the heart but also the truth and experience. Nothing can curtail the experience that you get or the feeling that you have when you can ask an individual, hey, how is that? Because I'm thinking of going into that field. How best can I prepare myself for a journey into that professional career as either a correctional officer, a probation officer, a parole officer, working as a not a line staff but a support staff, maybe in the classification department, maybe in the administration. I had many people come in that have those supervisory positions and managerial aspects, and now they see a different aspect, a different avenue, where not only are you just centered on the custody and care of inmates, but also policy and procedure, as well as budgeting, as well from a managerial perspective, where these guys are coming out of college or universities with their degrees, bachelor's or master's degrees, and now they can get an experienced person who've taught them throughout the year and maybe be their mentor or their leader or someone they can look up to and know that they got the right information as far as correctional careers or correctional experience. Again, I'm not taking anything for granted as far as the statistical data, or my colleagues here on academia who've written books and who've done research, and their thesis may be on recidivism rates and everything that happens here in the state of New Jersey or throughout the United States, because we try to teach in general aspects, not taking anything away from them, because they are so essential to this program. They're the ones, the backbone to this program, and we just become such like a resource to them. We actually have each other come and give lectures in each other's classes. I mean, there could be a criminology class or an intro to criminal justice that's dealing with the topic of jails or prison sentencing or prison reform, and they would by any means contact me, whether it be by email or see me at a office function and ask me, hey, can you please come speak to my class, because they see the value, and it's just invaluable to have someone who's done the job. I do and wish everyone that sees this or just lends an ear to this to pay attention. Pay attention to your surroundings. Pay attention to what goes on in your community. Pay attention to those career opportunities that may arise, whether it be corrections or somewhere else. Something that we always tell our trainees at the academy is 4 little words that just resound with every correctional officer, and that's to stay alert, stay alive. So I want to thank everyone for lending an ear, and again, any questions, concerns, feel free to contact anyone, whether it be at this venue or myself personally. Again, thank you so much.